guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm doing the final update, or what appears to be the final update, to a story I covered about 2 weeks ago, which is titled, I just learned that my cousin is marrying a party gal who I repeatedly hooked up with 2 years ago. And as a recap, that's about the guy who he's home for a few weeks to see his cousin get married. He's been deployed for 2 years in the Army, I believe, officer. And when he got together with his cousin, who is he's not very close with, but, they see each other on occasion, but he still cares about him. When they got together, the cousin showed the picture of who he's marrying, and this guy couldn't believe it because he hooked up with this girl 2 years ago. Met her on New Year's or something like that. Hooked up a little bit, a few times. Made it clear to her that he's not interested in a relationship. She was no problem with that. They parted ways, never heard from her since. Well, guess what? His cousin's marrying that girl. And so he wrote into me, as you all recall, what the hell do I do? Do I tell him that I hooked up with this girl and let it go? And I pointed out to him, it's a possibility that she was with your cousin when you hooked up with her, but didn't know. Because 2 years is a very quick time for them to meet, date, be exclusive, get engaged and all that. I mean, it's not possible. And so he told his cousin. And he found out that, yes, in fact, they were together 2 years earlier, but he had no idea. And as you can imagine, the cousin was destroyed. And I suspected his cousin was probably not exactly James Bond with the ladies. And it turns out that upon this guy's description, the cousin was overweight for a long time. This girl was I think his second real girlfriend. And the classic situation when the party gal settles for the nice guy. And obviously she was cheating on him back then. And I'm sure this dude telling the story wasn't the first. And so he tells the cousin did what he had to do. The next thing you know, this dude telling the story is getting hate messages from his female family members saying you shouldn't have done this and you ruined everything. That girl and her friends were texting him and saying the same thing, and it left in a big mess. And I told him, as you guys did, he did the right thing, even though it was a very hard thing to do. Well, here we are with the update as what's been going on ever since, because the last update was about 9 or 10 days ago, and let's just say it's a big mess. So it starts off, or continues. Hello again, once again, SSM. As expected, the fallout from this whole mess didn't take long to escalate. After I last updated you, I braced myself for the inevitable fallout, and well, it came in full force. Well, the classic situation, damned if you do, damned if you don't, and don't shoot the messenger. You are doing the hard thing telling your cousin, but of course you're the bad guy in many people's eyes. These past few days, my phone has been like a hotline. First, the cousin's elder sister kept at it, sending long messages about how I ruined it all, how I should have kept quiet, and how it was downright cruel of me to reveal everything just 3 weeks before the wedding. Oh, okay, in her pinhead mind, you should have stayed quiet about it and then revealed it after the wedding? Really, that makes a lot of sense? He gets married, he's his happy day, and after he's done taking all the wedding pictures, and he's on the can, you go in there and say, oh, by the way, cousin, I fucked your wife a few years ago, but your older cousin, your sister didn't want me to tell you till afterwards. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. The one who ruined everything is the fiancé, not you. This chick is just pissed off because she doesn't get to be in a wedding, and she's probably a big giant cheater herself. I finally decided I had enough and called her up on the phone, not for the drama, as I blocked her one number, and she began with her second phone number, giving me an additional grief about blocking her. She has 2 phone lines. Oh, I hope her husband or boyfriend knows this. There's a reason for that. So everything has a limit, and I was at my wit's end, and I dialed her number. The conversation was messy, but here is the important part that I remember best. Now listen to this conversation, or the gist of it. Well, the moment she picked up the phone, she was already going off about how I should have considered the timing. I let her rant for a solid minute before cutting in. I said that she kept saying I ruined his life, but what about his fiancé? She was the one two-timing him, or probably more than that. Then why was she so hell-bent on blaming me instead of her? Because you're the guy. It's convenient. And your cousin, who is the older sister of the dude who's getting married, obviously is just like the fiancé. End of story. They all stand up for each other. Yeah, you're the bad guy here. You were doing. Your cousin couldn't. Does she give a shit about her brother marrying a fucking cheater? A deceitful person like that? No. She replied to me, that's not about it at all. It's about the fact that I could have handled it differently, that I didn't have to drop this bomb right before the wedding. Again, after the wedding, after he married her, then he should let him know and have to go through the whole miserable process of the annulment at best or the divorce down the road. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Gentlemen, this is why you don't take advice from women about dating, relationships, pickup, or anything like that. Occasionally, you meet some that have some nuggets of wisdom to it, or some that may have a few points, but by and large, get all your advice for anything associating with this type of thing from experienced men. Maybe afterwards, she said maybe in a different way. Yeah, after the wedding, that makes a lot of sense. I laughed and told her that would she rather have her brother marry a liar and a cheater, and what timing she was talking about. 3 years after the marriage, with a couple of kids that probably wouldn't even be his? Exactly. She replied that I don't get it that families are involved, that people are talking about everything, and I said that I do get it, and I get it so well that I'm sure that she knew about her little rendezvous and kept it quiet. Ooh, saying that the sister probably knew about it. I wouldn't be surprised. It's not the first story I've covered where sisters and mother-in-laws knew or strongly suspected that a son or brother's fiance or wife or girlfriend was cheating. Ooh. And who cares if families are talking? Of course they're talking about this. Well, that really pissed her off, and she said that I'm being ridiculous and hung up the phone. Right there. There you go. Now she's done talking. She's fine ranting and raving and giving you shit, but when you call her out on her crap and pointing out a possibility here, oh, she's suddenly done and hangs up the phone. But she, of course, has to insult you first. Yeah. I entertained the idea of sending the entire text of his sister to him, but then decided against it as I figured it would be better if I showed and told him about his sister's behavior in person. Yes, you should be delivering all these things in person. As for my cousin's parents, his dad, as I mentioned earlier, is an old school guy, strict and traditional, and his mom is traditional but not strict. However, they also looked at me the way that felt like it wasn't full anger, like they wanted to be mad, but deep down they knew I hadn't done anything wrong. Yeah, I mean, you didn't do anything wrong. You had no idea that girl was his girlfriend back then, and he had to know. But they're just upset because he's hurt, and it's a big embarrassing thing. The wedding's off, and not to mention, I'm sure they've shelled out some money for this whole thing. Only his mother, my aunt, told me that maybe I should have rather come to them first about this matter, which I didn't agree with, as that would have been one hell of an awkward conversation, and not like it would change anything, as he still deserved to know, and she didn't argue further. Logic versus female emotion. If your cousin is old enough to get married, then you can go to him about this business. You don't go to his mommy and his daddy. Mommy here is still trying to protect her son. And yeah, okay, she doesn't want to be hurt, but no. And probably if you went to them first, they try to convince you not to tell him. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe you mistook who she was. Bullshit. Well, I switched my phone off for a whole day for my own peace of mind, and then on Monday, I went to check on my cousin. Oh boy. But you gotta do it. I went over to his apartment, and as soon as I walked in, I wasn't surprised. The place wasn't trash, but it definitely had that guy going through a crisis type of vibe. In other words, there were beer bottles over here and Chinese takeout boxes over there, and it was probably starting to smell, and clothes all over the fucking place, and pizza boxes, and, you can see he was watching Die Hard and stuff like that. Yeah. My cousin was definitely not happy to see me. Nonetheless, he did object to me sitting down. You can't blame him. I mean, it's not your fault, but still, you had to deliver all this information, and you were banging his now ex-fiancée. Well, we had some conversations about the ongoing situation. He said that the wedding for sure is not going to happen anymore. Good job, younger cousin. Although his ex-fiancée's family are trying to contact him and persuade him into changing his mind. Of course they are. Think about it. From their perspective, they, shelled out a whole lot of money because traditionally the bride pays for the vast majority of all these things for the wedding and all. So they're losing a lot of money in deposits and all that. They then have to explain to the family what happened, but I guarantee her family is not going to explain, what really happened, if they even got the whole story at all. And of course they had their crying little girl, it was a mistake, I'm so sorry, or probably telling them it never happened. I bet she's probably saying it was bullshit. As for the fiancé, she herself is asking for forgiveness, and she will change and will do anything to fix their relationship. Now you're begging for forgiveness. Now you're talking about this. Fix the relationship. There's no fixing this. You're a liar. You're a cheater. I can't trust you. No fucking way. But my cousin cannot get over the fact that she has shared the bed with one of his cousins. I shook my head and told him that I must not be the only one, and cheating is cheating. Over that, she also lied and hid things from him for years, to which he nodded. Yeah, if I was a bet man, I would say absolutely this dude telling the story was not the first guy she'd cheat on with this cousin. You know, it's a classic situation. I'm willing to bet you this girl rode the carousel all through her prime years of her teens and 20s. When she was ready to settle, and like all her friends probably have a competition who gets to the altar first, found a nice guy, you know how it works. And of course, this nice guy was more than happy to be with a pretty girl like this, thinking that the movies are right. And she settles with him, but meanwhile, she's having her fun on the side. And if they got married, she'd keep it up, guaranteed. Although I was prepared to have the talk about his sister with him, however, I've decided to let it go for the time being. Besides, I haven't heard from his sister after our talk the other day. Well, I can see why you would tell him right away, and I can see why you wouldn't tell him about the sister right away. You tell him right away because it's usually a good idea to deliver all bad news so you get it over with. On the other hand, he's been through a hell of a lot. And the bigger picture is obviously the fiancé and getting rid of her and starting over. Later on, you can tell him about his sister. Then we had quite a bit of a conversation about his fiancée, and the funniest part is that he told me that when he confronted her, she swore up and down that nothing happened and there was a misunderstanding. Right there, lying to his face. So when you mentioned, she's begging for forgiveness and she'll change, that was after she learned that there's no lying to this guy. He had the proof. We remember from the last video, you had copies of the text exchange from Instagram with her from 2 years earlier. And here she is. She said that I was making things up out of jealousy because I don't have a girlfriend, while he, on the other hand, was getting married. Really jealous? And if you watch this channel regularly, or any channels like this, and you have some experience, guys, I don't think any of you guys are feeling jealous towards any guy getting married in today's world. I think you're feeling borderline pity or borderline disgust. I haven't been to a wedding in 3 years, and every time I go to a wedding, I'm just want to barf. Ugh. I got nephews now. One who's, how the hell old is he? Coming up on 24, and the other one's 21 pretty soon. And I hope, they know what I do on YouTube. They know my opinions on things, and I hope they learn a lot. But one day, if they, oh God, I'm going to think about it. Anyhow, hopefully it'll be a while before I go to a wedding. All that happened 2 years ago was me trying to get her attention. She said that all what happened 2 years ago was me trying to get her attention and being a creep and all. And all she did was ignore my advances, and that I'm petty now by making things up. Man, she could at least have some integrity and admit what she did. But she won't. Nope, not at all. She's a snake until the fucking end. Nope, didn't happen. He's making the whole thing up. He's jealous. She's a terrible person. This just confirms why the cousin can't marry her. Well, she denied everything until he showed her the screenshots he took from me, and only then did she crumble with the usual waterworks. So in other words, the typical deny, and then when the truth comes out, cry. Because in her mind, this guy's such a simp, he'll eventually cave. He asked me if she meant anything to me, and I couldn't help but chuckle. I told him that she means only one thing to not only me, but every other guy she hooked up with, and he knows what. Ouch. I'm sure that hurt, but he had to say it. Of course, my reply caused his face to twitch, but he knew I was right. Anyway, I had him watch more of your videos to let him know the situation is not one in a million, that there are many guys out there like him. Ouch. Yes, cousin, if you're watching this, you are not alone. I've been doing this for 5 freaking years, thousands of videos, more thousands and thousands of stories I've read that haven't come to video. And this happens all over the world. You're not alone, but you will get through this, and I'll get back to that in a moment. Hopefully your content will help grow out of this mess sooner. His fiancée did not try to contact me after I had blocked her, and her friends, and I hope they do not. So it has mostly been quiet for the last 2 days, and I wish it stays that way. Hopefully this will be my last update. Have a nice day, SSM. Well, something tells me there's going to be a final update probably in the next 2 weeks about more shit going on. But anyhow, bro, I'm glad you shared the update. All the guys were wondering what's going on here, guaranteed. I was wondering what's going on. I was checking my email every day waiting to see this final update because I knew it was coming. But you did the right thing. I know it was hard, and, don't back down from your convictions. And one day your cousin, although he's really hurting, and it's understandable, will thank you for this. You saved his life. And that female cousin of yours, I wouldn't have anything to do with her ever again, period. But as for the cousin, because he watches my videos now, I have a message for him. And I want to say, bro, I'm very sorry what happened. But your cousin here, he wrote in struggling what to do because he had no idea it was your girl a couple of years ago. He really tossed and turned about this. And I'm sorry you're going through this, but I got to tell you, I know it won't make you feel better to know that you're not alone, but nevertheless, you're not alone. There are guys all over the world that have gone through the same crap, okay? And at least you didn't get married to her. I know this is not going to do much, but at least you didn't get married to her and have to go through the mess of alimony or divorce, or you found out years from now and you would have found out, had kids. It's better to happen now before you got married, and your cousin did you a favor. And I promise you this, I've been doing this for 5 years on YouTube. You're probably thinking, who the fuck is this guy in the car telling me what's what? I choose the car as my studio because that's just what I do. But anyhow, I've been on YouTube for 5 years. I've covered thousands and thousands of stories, which led to easily 3,000 plus videos at this point between my 3 channels, and you're not alone. And what typically happens is, if you're honest with yourself, you're a guy that didn't have a whole lot of experience. You met her. I'm sure she was beautiful, charming, sexy, all that. And you thought you hit the jackpot, which happens to a lot of guys when they get to be in their early to mid-20s. And you thought you had the one. But the truth is, a lot of gals they have what they call their hoe phase. And then they want to get married because now all their friends are getting married. And it's not about the marriage. It's about the wedding ceremony for the attention and putting on social media and TikTok and Instagram. And that they go through that whole thing, and they have their bridesmaids and their bachelorette parties and all that crap. It ain't about the guy. Sometimes it's about the guy, but by and large, it's about just simply getting married. And what would happen is you married her. You thought you were on cloud 9. But the reality is you were married to a giant snake, and she would have kept cheating on you. Maybe you had kids, and the next thing you know, you don't know if those are your kids or not. I'm being honest here. This happens to so many guys around the world. So your cousin saved your ass here. So down the road when you're ready, you'll realize that and you'll be able to thank him. And my recommendation for you as brother is take it one day at a time. That's it. Get through the day. That's your mission. But right now you got to clear out this mess. You need to, I don't know if you live with your fiance or not. Hopefully you don't. But if you do, it's time to find new living arrangements. Get away from her. Tell her it's over. Don't contact me again. End of fucking story. And the same thing with her family. If her family was good to you, then at very least you should go to her family and tell them what happened and thank them for the years that they were good to you and all that. They deserve that. And not to mention, you should control the narrative because I guarantee you she isn't telling them the full story. Okay? And I know it seems like you must feel like you're a fool. How could you have been such a fool to believe all this, Well, again, a lot of guys are like that. And these girls are very slick. And you wanted to believe her. Of course you did. You were in love with her, And I'm sorry it happened. And from going forward, you really are learning a hard lesson. And you're obviously a relationship guy. That going forward with future women, you have to really keep your eyes wide open for red flags. Do your homework on them. Don't rush into relationships. Don't rush certainly into marriage. All that. And doing things one day at a time. Stay close to the people that truly care, like your family, your friends, the ones that have your back. If you don't exercise, hit the gym. You'll feel better. Focus on your career and all that, and you'll move past this. And for God's sakes, do not buy into your now former fiancés crying and begging. She's going to try every sneaky trick to get you to change your mind and marry her, as well as all her friends, family. They're going to try to shame you, all this stuff. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for her begging and pleading, and I'll change. I'll do anything you want. That's what they all say. I joke around and say it's from the Hobag handbook of all the shit they say to fuck with a guy's mind. But take your time. You're going to be okay. And I encourage you to watch this channel and look up various subjects that relate to your situation to help you get where you're going to be. Again, it could have been terribly worse. You could have married her. So anyhow, when you're ready, thank your cousin, buy him a 6-pack, and he can be your wingman, and you can move past this. That's all I have to say. And to all the guys out there that find themselves in an unfortunate situation like this. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Please give a shout out to the dude telling this story and give him some credit for sharing the story. And also words for the cousin who's going through this fucking hell. Let him know he's not alone. Because believe me, he'll read this and it will help. Every message will make him feel a bit better, hopefully. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.